And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. May I speak in the name of the one who was and is to come. Amen. Amen. The world of retail is already full of reindeer, elves, and Christmas carols. But here in the church, the imagery strikes a different note. Our Advent Gospel this morning begins, but in those days, after that suffering, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Advent means coming, especially the coming of something long awaited. Jesus uses language familiar to his listeners of the end time, signifying that something cosmic and earth-shaking is about to take place. God is about to act in a way that will change everything. It's a time not of tinsel and eggnog, but of signs and portents. Few things can make a Christian feel more out of step with their neighbors than keeping Advent. Advent looks in three directions at once. It looks back to the long-awaited advent or coming of the Christ child in Bethlehem. It looks forward to the long-awaited advent of the Son of God coming in a cloud with great power at the end of time. And it focuses our attention on the time in between. So we must prepare because we are hurtling toward an encounter with the living God who is coming. And God doesn't call ahead. God doesn't text or email or post. God doesn't wait until we're ready, whenever that might be. But about that day and hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. The time of God's coming to us may well be now. Advent starts off literally with a wake-up call. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. Every year, at this time of year, my family and I watch some version of Dickens's A Christmas Carol. We've seen it on TV, VHS, DVD, and the stage. We've seen Scrooge played by, among others, George C. Scott, Sir Patrick Stewart, a woman, and a duck. But our all-time favorite Scrooge is Michael Caine in The Muppets Christmas Carol. I cannot recommend this movie highly enough to you. Seriously, but make sure you watch the director's cut or you're going to miss a very important scene. Trust me. No matter how it's performed, in the 180 years since Dickens wrote it, people have never grown tired of Scrooge, the story of a man who gets the wake-up call of his life in the form of three spirits sent to him by the ghost of his old business partner, Jacob Marley. Marley is doomed to go forth in death because he never went forth in life. He never ventured beyond his personal interests, never considered the needs of others. He comes to warn Scrooge that a similar fate awaits him. But you were always a good man of business, Jacob, Scrooge counters, trying to buck them both up. Business, cries the ghost, wringing his hands. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol when London was reeling from the effects of the Industrial Revolution. Both farmers and immigrants were flooding into the city. Food was scarce. Times were harsh. When he was only 12 years old, Dickens' father was thrown into debtor's prison. And Dickens was forced to paste labels on jars in a shoe polish factory 10 hours a day to help pay down the debt. And in keeping with the practice at that time, his mother and all his younger siblings were imprisoned with his dad. So he was the second of 8 children, so there was only him and an older sibling out there working to get the family out. An unexpected bequest from a deceased relative allowed Dickens' father to be released after 3 months. But the horror Dickens experienced of the rats and the decay of being lonely, ill, and starving in a world that could not care less never left him. Dickens' writings have always had to do with the plight of the poor and the decisions of the rich. He wrote A Christmas Carol in order to confront the problems of want and ignorance, which the tale personifies as 2 horrifying children. Well, these were the threats he saw facing England, being bred in the slums of the country's newly industrialized cities. What Dickens had originally conceived of as a pamphlet, a trifle, had an exponential impact. Published on December 19th, 1843, 6,000 copies of A Christmas Carol were sold in the first day. The first printing was sold out in 5 on Christmas Eve. 2 months later, plays were up and running. The story gripped everyone who heard it, read it, or saw it. The story was a wake-up call for Scrooge, but not only for Scrooge, as production after production attests, also for us. It's called A Christmas Carol in prose, a ghost story of Christmas. But it is the world's quintessential Advent story. What I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. Scrooge gets to see the past, the present, and the future, and it gives him a new perspective on now, on life's meaning, its preciousness, its finitude. He sees the impact his choices have made on his own life and on the lives of others, lives like Tiny Tim's, to whose presence he has only just awoken. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Scrooge wakes up to the realization that because of his choices, his future and Tiny Tim's are bleak. If he wants a different ending to the story, he must change while there is yet time. The question Advent asks of us is, are we happy with our story? If not, if we wish a different ending, we must change what we're doing while there is still time. We must wake up. That's the gift of this season to us. 2 things are true. God is coming and we are going to God. In both cases, there will be an encounter. Are we ready for it? Are we up and dressed for it? Or, as in today's parable, are we still in our pajamas? Advent calls us to live the way we'd like God to find us living when God comes. And that is living caring, loving, hopeful lives, doing the work God has given us to do. From the fig tree, learn its lesson, says Jesus. As soon as its branches become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. Pay attention. It's signs so small that show us of the presence of God. Take your time. No rushing. No forcing. Watch. Wait. Work. Live, eyes peeled, eyes on the prize, for you do not know when the time will come. What I say to you, I say to all. Keep awake. Amen.
Amen.